Ethan Cole knelt on the cold obsidian floor, chains biting into his wrists as Judge Xylar's towering form loomed above. The alien chamber pulsed with silence. Every breath of billions focused on him. Ethan's chest tightened, his throat a desert, but he forced himself not to collapse. Judge Xylar said, "For crimes against existence, humanity is sentenced to extermination." The words echoed like thunder, rolling through the chamber, shattering every last hope. Ethan's eyes burned, not with tears, but with the weight of a billion unseen souls pressing down upon him. The fleets in orbit shimmered like daggers pointed toward Earth. A whisper stirred in the shadows behind him, unseen yet near. Liora's voice brushed his ear, soft and defiant. She said, "They're not just judging you, Ethan, they're judging us all." His heart lurched, and in that moment of despair, a fragile spark refused to die. The silence following Xylar's decree stretched like eternity. Ethan remained on his knees, humiliation wrapping him tighter than chains. Alien judges whispered in languages sharp as glass. Ethan clenched his jaw, refusing to let them see fear. His body ached from endless captivity, but his eyes refused to lower. Judge Xylar turned slightly, speaking to the tribunal. "This creature represents the sickness of his kind." Ethan swallowed pain, whispering under his breath, "I will not break." The crowd hissed, voices rising like venom. Yet, above the sea of contempt, Ethan thought of home, of skies once filled with sunlight instead of war. That memory was fragile armor, but it was enough. Above the tribunal, fleets hovered in silence, weapons primed, waiting for the final order. Ethan lifted his head and glimpsed the holographic display, Earth ringed by steel and flame. His chest constricted, but he forced himself to keep breathing. A voice within him screamed to cry out, to beg for mercy, yet his lips remained sealed. The alien gallery roared with approval of the sentence. "Erase them!" one voice shrieked, echoed by countless others. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, seeing the faces of those he loved, gone but not forgotten. He whispered, "They will remember us, even in ashes." From the shadows behind him, a voice emerged. Liora's tone was low, barely a whisper, yet it cut through the chamber's cold silence. She said, "They are not just judging you, Ethan. They are judging all who dare to endure." Ethan turned his head slightly, eyes straining to find her, but only caught a glimmer of silver light. He whispered back, "Why help me?" She remained hidden, her presence more felt than seen, as if she carried the weight of another history. For a heartbeat, hope flickered in his chest. The tribunal's eyes were blind to her quiet rebellion. Ethan lowered his head again, but his mind surged with revelation. This was not a trial of one broken man. This was a spectacle meant to destroy an entire species in the eyes of the galaxy. Judge Xylar called for silence, their cold voice booming. Extinction is the only verdict. Ethan clenched his fists, pain shooting through raw wrists. Yet, in his silence, he felt a shift within himself. He was not just Ethan Cole anymore. He was every mother who had wept, every soldier who had fallen, every child who had dreamed. "You will not erase us," he thought. Ethan Cole closed his eyes, and memory tore through him like shattered glass. He saw his wife's face, fading in the smoke of a burning city, her voice cut short by chaos. He remembered the laughter of his daughter, gone with the silence of ash. The tribunal chamber dissolved, and became streets filled with fire, walls crumbling around screaming crowds. He had failed to protect them, failed to save the only light that had ever mattered. Ethan whispered, "I still carry you," his voice trembling yet hard. The alien judges sneered, seeing nothing but weakness, but his scars told another story. He carried a broken heart, yet that brokenness was his only strength. Humanity's weight pressed on his shoulders, and in those dark memories, a flicker of defiance smoldered unseen. The faces of comrades haunted him next. Marcus Kane had once been his brother in arms, their bond forged in the crucible of war. Yet betrayal carved deeper than any wound. Ethan remembered the moment Kane turned away, aligning with alien powers, calling humanity reckless and unworthy. Ethan's chest burned with that memory, betrayal becoming scar tissue across his soul. Kane's voice still rang sharp, survival demands surrender. Ethan spat blood onto the floor of his mind, whispering, "You surrendered more than your life. You surrendered your soul." His chains rattled as he flexed his fists. Betrayal left a scar, but it also left clarity, that he would never bend as Kane had. Every scar on his body told a story of failure and survival. He remembered nights in mud-soaked trenches, skies ablaze with fire, and comrades falling beside him. Pain seared every memory, but still he endured. Ethan Cole breathed slowly, every breath a refusal to vanish. His shoulders hunched beneath invisible weight, yet his spine remained unbroken. The tribunal saw a prisoner, but beneath the chains stood resilience sharpened by suffering. Ethan whispered to himself, "I am not finished." His voice carried no grandeur, only raw truth. His scars were not shame, but testimony that he had faced annihilation before and stood again. Humiliation burned hotter than pain. Ethan's head was forced low, his body displayed before countless alien eyes. They saw a broken animal, not a man. His silence was mocked, his humanity dismissed as weakness. Yet in the stillness, Ethan knew this spectacle was more than personal. He was a mirror of an entire species, stripped bare before judgment. He could taste their disdain, bitter as iron, but it did not shatter him. Instead, shame hardened into steel within him. His humiliation was no longer just his own. It was the humiliation of mothers, fathers, and children who had suffered under alien cruelty. His heart beat louder than the silence. Ethan drew in a trembling breath, realization striking deep. He was not simply Ethan Cole anymore. The tribunal had crafted a stage where he became something larger. Every word spoken against him was spoken against billions. Every lash of humiliation was meant to break not just a man, but a race. His pulse thundered, carrying the echoes of those who had fallen before him. He felt them within him, their voices whispering through memory. "Stand," they seemed to say. Ethan clenched his fists, lifting his head with slow defiance. He was a witness, unwilling and unprepared, yet he bore the fate of humanity. Judge Ilar raised a hand, and the chamber's walls ignited with light. Images of human wars, atrocities, and endless cruelty filled the air. Cities burning, oceans poisoned, skies black with smoke. Ethan Cole forced himself to watch, even as his stomach twisted. The judges spoke in cold harmony, "Your kind thrives on destruction." The audience hissed, their voices rising with disgust. Ethan clenched his fists, breathing hard, refusing to look away. These images were real, yet not the full truth. Humanity's pain was displayed without its compassion. Ethan whispered, "You choose the scars, not the healing." His words were drowned by jeers. Among the alien gallery stood Marcus Kane, once Ethan's brother in arms. Now, his polished uniform gleamed under tribunal lights, his posture stiff with pride. Kane nodded eagerly at every accusation. His voice rang sharp, "Humanity cannot be trusted. I stand as proof of their recklessness." Ethan's chest tightened, rage fighting with sorrow. Betrayal echoed louder than the judge's verdicts. Kane's expression was carved from stone, cold and resolute. Ethan spat blood on the floor, whispering, "You sold us for survival." Kane's eyes flicked down briefly, yet his smirk remained. The crowd cheered him as if he spoke for all. Ethan struggled to speak, but each word was met with mocking laughter. "Humanity is more than its wars," he tried to shout, his voice breaking. The judges slammed their hands, silencing him with scorn. One alien hissed, "Even now, you deny your guilt." Ethan's jaw ached as he gritted his teeth, his throat raw. Every attempt to defend humanity was twisted into weakness. The chamber roared with contempt. Yet Ethan refused to bow. His silence became a weapon, his eyes burning with defiance. He whispered to himself, "I am not their animal." The audience's jeers became thunder around him. As evidence continued, Ethan's mind sharpened. Not all images were true. Some were twisted half-truths, others outright fabrications. Footage of battles shifted into falsehoods, painting humans as monsters even where mercy had been shown. Ethan's stomach sank with the realization. This was not justice, but manipulation. He whispered, "They want extermination, not truth." His breath quickened as the lies piled higher. The tribunal thrived on distortion, the crowd roaring with each false revelation. Ethan lowered his head, hiding his fire. He would not give them satisfaction. Within the storm of deceit, he clung to one certainty. Humanity had been set up. That night, locked in his cell, Ethan sat against cold steel walls, his chains heavy but his mind sharper than ever. Shadows flickered as a voice seeped into the silence. It was neither judge nor soldier, but something hidden. The voice whispered, "If you want the truth, you must survive what comes tomorrow." Ethan stiffened, heart hammering. "Who are you?" he demanded, but no answer came. The voice lingered like smoke, fading yet unforgettable. Ethan pressed his head back, breathing in ragged defiance. Tomorrow would not be mercy. It would be another weapon. But he knew then, survival was rebellion. The tribunal's verdict shifted. Ethan Cole was not executed, but dragged into a chamber of ordeal. Chains rattled as he was forced onto jagged stone, eyes burning beneath pale light. Judge Sylar declared, "Let survival prove your kind's worth." Torture began, fire on his skin, ice on his breath, claws tearing at flesh. Ethan screamed but did not break. Every torment was designed to shatter his spirit, to prove weakness before billions watching. Yet even as blood dripped, he forced himself upright. His whisper cut through agony, "You will not have my surrender." Pain consumed him, but endurance became his shield. Hours bled into torment. Ethan was thrust into icy water, dragged through fire, and forced to crawl on shattered glass. His body shook, blood mixing with sweat, yet his jaw remained clenched. The alien crowd roared in delight, expecting collapse. Ethan staggered but rose again, every breath a declaration that humanity refused to vanish. He whispered through broken lips, "I am still here." Each step echoed defiance louder than screams. His tormentors sneered, yet behind their scorn flickered unease. Ethan endured, and endurance itself became rebellion. Humanity's strength was not conquest but survival, carved in scars and silence. As Ethan endured, a pattern emerged. Every trial was meant to strip away dignity, not test truth. Yet with each rise, whispers spread through the gallery. Liora's silver eyes glimmered from the shadows, watching with quiet hope. Ethan collapsed to his knees, coughing blood, then pushed himself up again. He muttered, "You fear us because we rise." Judge Sylar's face hardened, alien calm cracking for a heartbeat. The crowd, once certain, shifted uneasily. Humanity was not hated for cruelty, but feared for resilience. Ethan's defiance turned suffering into revelation. He was no longer just a prisoner, he was proof. Between trials, whispers reached Ethan. The tribunal was not united. A faction had orchestrated this ordeal. The architect unseen moved threads in shadow, shaping the trial to guarantee humanity's end. Ethan gasped, pressing bloodied hands to the floor. He said, "This was never justice." Judge Sylar did not deny it, their silence heavier than words. Holograms flickered, revealing hints of manipulation. Ethan's fury deepened, pain-fueling clarity. Humanity was not on trial for crimes, but for potential. The conspiracy's hand was clear, and truth spread like fire within Ethan's chest. Survival was no longer enough, revelation had begun. Then came betrayal. From the tribunal's platform stepped Marcus Kane, face stern, uniform polished, eyes hollow. He said, "Ethan, I warned you. Survival demands surrender." Ethan's chest twisted, rage cutting deeper than wounds. Kane smiled coldly, turning to the tribunal. "Humanity cannot be trusted. I offer myself as proof." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Ethan strained against chains, blood dripping from his wrists. "You were my brother," he shouted, voice raw with anguish. Kane's smirk was answer enough. Betrayal burned hotter than fire, breaking something inside Ethan, but also hardening his resolve. He would not fall like Kane. Blood dripped from Ethan Cole's chin as he forced himself to stand, his chains clanging against the floor. The crowd roared in derision, but his voice cut through them like fire. "You think weakness defines us. You are wrong." His words were ragged, yet unbroken. He raised his head, eyes burning with defiance. "We have bled, we have fallen, but we always rise." Judge XLR leaned forward, face a mask of disdain, but unease rippled across the tribunal. Ethan's voice no longer begged, it demanded. He was no longer a prisoner speaking to judges. He was a human speaking to the galaxy. Ethan's words grew sharper, each syllable fueled by memory. "I have seen mothers bury sons, fathers shield daughters, children cling to life through fire." The gallery shifted, their silence heavy. "We are more than violence. We are love, sacrifice, endurance." His chest heaved, blood staining his lips, but he refused to falter. The tribunal's sneers softened into uncertainty, and whispers spread. Ethan's voice trembled with both grief and pride. "We endure not because we are perfect, but because we refuse to vanish." His truth became louder than his chains, echoing through the chamber until silence replaced mockery. The tribunal chamber wavered with unease. Aliens shifted in their seats, their glowing eyes flickering with doubt. Some whispered, others turned away. For the first time, certainty fractured. Ethan's voice cut deeper. "You fear what you cannot control. You fear us because we do not bow." Judge Sylar slammed a hand against the stand, but the words had already rooted themselves in the audience. Doubt rippled like cracks across glass. Ethan's presence, bloodied yet unyielding, became a beacon. He whispered, "You cannot erase us. Even in ashes we endure." The silence that followed was heavier than any verdict. Then came the revelation. A hidden archive flickered to life, revealing Ethan's bloodline. Not chance but legacy had placed him here. He was descendant of explorers who first reached beyond stars, a living symbol of humanity's defiance. Gasps spread like wildfire through the chamber. Ethan's chest tightened, but he stood taller. "This is what you fear," he said, voice steady. "Not crimes, but the strength to endure, the will to rise." Judge Sylar's calm fractured, eyes narrowing in fury. Ethan's existence itself was the truth they had tried to bury. He was not just witness, he was legacy reborn. As the revelation shook the chamber, a cry pierced the silence. Liora stepped forward from the shadows, silver eyes blazing. She shielded Ethan from a sudden strike, her body pierced by energy meant for him. Gasps erupted as she fell, blood glowing like liquid silver. Ethan caught her, his chains clattering. Her voice trembled, "They fear you because you live." Then her light faded. Rage and grief consumed Ethan. He raised his head, shouting with fire, "We are not asking for mercy, we are demanding recognition." His cry thundered, igniting rebellion in the gallery. Fire had been born in chains. Judge Xilar rose, their towering frame casting a shadow across the chamber. Their voice cold as steel thundered, "The tribunal delivers its final verdict. Humanity will be exterminated." The words struck like daggers, piercing the silence. The crowd erupted in divided roars, some chanting for death, others whispering dissent. Ethan Cole's chest tightened, his hands trembling in chains. He stared upward, rage burning where despair once lingered. His breath caught, but he refused to bow. Sylar's gaze pierced him like a blade. Yet for the first time Ethan saw not certainty, but fear behind alien calm. Guards seized Ethan, dragging him toward the execution platform. His body staggered with each pull, chains biting into flesh, but his eyes remained unbroken. The crowd howled, demanding his blood. Holograms flared above, showing fleets primed for Earth's destruction. Ethan whispered through clenched teeth, "Not like this." His legs shook, but he forced himself upright, every stumble becoming a march. The tribunal wanted a spectacle of collapse, but Ethan gave them defiance. Every step was fire, every breath rebellion. Even in chains, he walked like a soldier, not a prisoner. Before the execution could fall, chaos erupted. Alien factions within the gallery clashed, some screaming for humanity's destruction, others demanding justice. Flames burst as weapons ignited, and the chamber trembled with riot. Ethan staggered as guards released him, distracted by the violence. Silar's booming voice commanded silence, but the chamber was no longer theirs to control. Ethan's heart pounded, watching order collapse into chaos. He whispered, "The truth burns brighter than chains." Billions watched through broadcasts as the trial spiraled into flames, no longer a verdict, but a war of voices. The holograms flickered, unraveling the conspiracy for all to see. Images revealed fabricated crimes, manipulated evidence, and the hidden hand of the architect. Gasps filled the chamber as truth shattered illusions. Ethan raised his head, blood streaking his face, watching their lies collapse. "You feared us," he muttered, "because you could not control us." The audience erupted, not in unified hatred, but in fractured rebellion. The tribunal's authority dissolved under the weight of exposed corruption. Humanity's trial was no longer about guilt. It was about survival against a lie. Ethan's voice rose above the chaos, chains rattling as he stood tall. "You cannot erase us. You cannot bury us, because we are already inside you, in your fear, in your memory, in the fire you tried to put out." His words roared louder than weapons, louder than judgment. The chamber fell silent, every eye fixed on him. His body shook, blood dripping, yet his stance was unyielding. In that moment, he was no longer one man, but a voice for billions. His defiance blazed across the galaxy, carving humanity into history not as victims, but as fire. The tribunal could no longer enforce its verdict. Humanity was spared, but not absolved. Ethan Cole stood in the chamber, chains broken, body trembling. The decree was clear. Humanity would live, yet scarred, marked, and watched. Alien factions withdrew in silence, the galaxy fractured but alert. Ethan felt no victory, only the heavy truth that survival carried its own burden. His wounds ached, but his spirit refused to bow. He whispered, "We live, but we are not free." The gallery's silence was not respect, but warning. The future would be shadowed, yet humanity had carved space in defiance. Ethan staggered out of the tribunal, his body battered, his soul heavier than chains. Every step echoed in the hollow corridors, the silence louder than any roar. His thoughts spiraled toward the cost. Liora's sacrifice, lives lost in fire, truths burned into scars. He touched his chest, where her last words still burned. "They fear you because you live," he whispered. "I carry you," voice breaking yet steady. He had survived, but survival was not triumph. It was a warning etched into flesh. Humanity was alive, yet forever marked by the trial that nearly erased them. Beyond the chamber, the galaxy watched in silence. Billions of eyes stared at broadcasts of the trial's collapse. Some wept, others raged, and many simply whispered. Ethan's image burned across worlds, not as a conqueror, but as proof of humanity's endurance. His words echoed through transmissions. "We are not asking for mercy. We are demanding recognition." The galaxy shifted uneasily, forced to see humanity not as animals but as survivors. Yet for every voice of support, another voice demanded chains. Ethan had given them no peace, only truth sharp enough to wound. Ethan walked alone, leaving behind the burning chamber. His steps echoed in silence as the galaxy's gaze bore down upon him. He carried the scars of trial, the betrayal of Marcus Kane, and the sacrifice of Liora. Every wound spoke louder than triumph. He was not victorious, not yet. The path ahead was shadowed with suspicion and fear. Yet he felt the fire within him, the defiance that no tribunal could extinguish. He whispered, "We endure because we must." The galaxy would watch, waiting for failure. But Ethan carried humanity's warning with every broken step. "Aye." Ethan stopped at the edge of the tribunal steps, staring into the endless stars beyond. His body quaked, yet his eyes blazed with unbroken defiance. Billions who had watched now carried his voice in memory. He whispered, words meant not for the tribunal, but for history. They wanted a verdict. What they got was a warning. The silence of the galaxy deepened, heavy and eternal. Ethan's figure faded into shadow, not as a victor, but as a living prophecy. Humanity's fate was no longer decided by judges. It was written in scars, fire, and the refusal to vanish.